Money is not just a tool, it is a mirror. It reflects who you are, how you think, what you fear, and most dangerously, who owns your strings. Everyone desires it, most run after it, but very few ever grasp its true nature. They call it currency, success, freedom. But to Machiavelli, money was none of those things. To him, money was influence made visible. And he warned, if you don't understand how wealth is used to control, to distract, and to expose, you will be enslaved by it, even while you imagine yourself free. Because here lies the truth. Most people don't serve money. They serve the illusion that possessing it makes them powerful. But Machiavelli saw power in another form. He cared nothing for riches as luxury. He cared for how money could be used to bend men without lifting a single weapon. So let us begin with the first rule of money Machiavelli would teach. Not how to earn it, but how money makes men move. Rule 1. Money is not power. It only reveals power. You have seen it countless times. A man suddenly gains wealth. A woman inherits fortune, a company raises millions, and in an instant they grow loud, arrogant, flamboyant, convinced that money itself has elevated them. But watch with patience. The powerful do not change, only the weak do, because money does not create character, it magnifies it. It brings forth what was always within. The coward hides behind wealth. The manipulator offers generosity only for gain. The fool purchases what he thinks wisdom looks like. So the first Machiavellian lesson is this. Do not chase money to feel powerful. Chase power itself, discipline, strategy, reputation, and let money become the evidence of your control, not the source of it. Otherwise, you may be rich and still remain weak. And there is nothing more pitiful than a man with wealth but no presence, one who owns things but commands no respect. Machiavelli watched kings fall not from poverty, but from the delusion that gold made them feared. He knew true power is when men act differently before you even speak, not because of your wealth, but because of your mind. Rule 2. Wealth without mystery is weakness. The modern world worships display, watches, cars, designer jewels, public transparency of finances. Men flaunt their net worth as if it were a soul. But Machiavelli would see this not as strength, but as exposure. For once men know what you own, they begin to calculate what to take. He believed in a principle so rarely understood. Power is preserved by concealment. Never let wealth speak louder than strategy. For if wealth becomes the loudest thing about you, you have already lost. You have revealed the target. So what does the Machiavellian do? He builds in silence. He grows through structure, not spectacle. He allows his enemies to believe he is always less than he is, for nothing is more dangerous than the man whose power cannot be measured. Let them doubt your fortune. Let them underestimate you. Let them believe you are surviving when secretly you control the entire game. That is how you remain unseen. That is how you strike without warning. That is how kings are forged in silence. Rule 3. Never rely on money you do not control. Here lies the trap that ruins most lives. They believe earning money is the same as owning power. But if your wealth can be frozen, seized, taxed away, or erased by another's will, you do not own wealth. You rent it. This was what Machiavelli feared more than poverty, dependence. For once your survival rests on what another man governs, you become manageable. Ask yourself, is your income built on another's approval? Could your comfort vanish with a single call? Have you built strength on systems that do not belong to you? If so, you are not free. You are decorated, well-fed, yet still a prisoner. And he who controls the food always controls the lion. So the Machiavellian does not merely earn money, he builds fortresses around it, hidden assets, streams unseen, flows of wealth not bound to applause, not dependent on fragile networks. He creates income that survives silence and security, that does not depend on being liked. For once you make another depend on you financially, you no longer need to argue. You don't need to threaten. You don't even need to speak. They will censor themselves. They will apologize before you even feel insulted. They will obey while convincing themselves it's compromise. And that is real power, not the kind born from fear, not the kind born from fame, but control through economic gravity. The people around you orbit not because you force them, but because your financial structure pulls harder than theirs. That is Machiavelli's definition of wealth. Not money, not treasure, but influence that compounds even in silence. And if you never learn to build that, you will spend your life making wealth for others, living under the illusion of comfort, while another hand decides your rise or your fall. So stop chasing income alone. Build independence, not the kind you boast about, but the kind no one can see, no one can touch, no one can strip away. That is the true foundation. And if you master it, you won't need to pretend to be powerful. You will feel it each time you walk away without fear, each time you say no without trembling, each time someone realizes you are the only one in the room who does not need anything from anyone. That is how money really works, not through obsession. Not the man who writes the checks never begs. The woman who owns the table never asks for a seat, and once you command the flow of money, you don't need to manipulate. People will bend and twist themselves just to gain access to you. That is the real game. Not in working harder, not in earning more, but in creating value so magnetic that others orbit around it. And the less accessible you become, the more precious that orbit feels. Machiavelli never believed in generosity for applause. He believed in calculated patronage, giving not for kindness, but for design. You give, and then you watch, not for gratitude, but for patterns. Who becomes entitled, who becomes loyal, who begins to think your favor is permanent. That is when you discover the truth of people. Who is ally and who is only an opportunist rehearsing loyalty for future gain. And that leads to the sixth law. Rule 6. Always let them think money is the prize. This is how wars are won without battles. You let others chase the check, the promotion, the inheritance, the title, the glittering trophy. And while they run, you study the terrain. You build quiet influence. You listen to silence. You move steady, patient, unshaken by petty losses, unimpressed by small wins. Because the true Machiavellian knows money is bait. The real prize is power. Let them celebrate their raise. You stay focused on owning the system that prints the checks. Let them fight over percentages. You secure positioning. Let them spend their years building careers. You build dependency, the single force that keeps them serving long after the contract is gone. For money ends, but debt of value, social, emotional, psychological, endures for life. The wise do not grow rich to be admired. They grow rich to build options, to walk away from what others crawl toward, to say no while the rest beg for yes. Machiavelli would never waste time flexing wealth. He would sit silently in a room, notice who twitches when money is mentioned, and judge who is useful, who is dangerous, who is predictable. That is true control. Not through noise, not through greed, but through reading how money unmasks what people hide. And once you master that, you won't just earn money, you will master the machine behind it, and you will never chase again. To those who don't grasp money, it seems like everything. But to those who truly see, money is only a lever, and that lever only works because people believe in the illusion behind it. That illusion is not wealth, it is security, because money at its root does not promise power, it promises safety. Safety from discomfort, safety from instability, safety from the unknown. Machiavelli understood this deeply. The most loyal are not those who are paid the most. They are those who fear life without you. That is why the seventh law of Machiavellian wealth is this. Rule 7. Use money to create comfort, then control the fear of losing it. People do not work hard for money itself. They work hard to not lose the life money gives them. When someone is accustomed to income, lifestyle, recognition, their identity becomes fused with it. They tie their worth to what their wealth allows them to touch. Give them just enough comfort, just enough status, just enough visibility. Then watch when they sense it slipping. They will compromise, they will overreach, they will censor themselves, they will obey. This is not cruelty. It is structure. It is the recognition that economic fear bends decisions more than reason ever will. Machiavelli would never issue threats. That is too obvious. Instead, he would let someone feel the faint edges of discomfort, delay a payment, withdraw a favor, redirect attention elsewhere, let them wonder, not panic, just wonder if their standing has been lost. And in that tension, they reveal how tightly they are tied to their comfort. Here lies the Machiavellian truth. Most people will do anything to avoid moving backward, not from greed, but from fear, because they have sewn their self-worth into their standard of living. So the game is not simply to give money, it is to give identity, an identity upheld by money. Then watch how far they go to protect it. This is how empires endured. Not through blood, but through salaries, not through chains, but through ceremonies, not through fear of death, but through symbols of privilege, tokens that could be withdrawn at any moment. Because when you provide comfort that feels earned but remains fragile, you control without ever raising your voice. Now comes a darker current. Rule 8. The rich are not respected. They are measured. The world has been sold a lie. That wealth itself guarantees admiration. Here's your script, rewritten in English, keeping the same length, flow, and intensity, written in one continuous piece without partitions, exactly as you asked. They say people will treat you better the more you flaunt your status. But Machiavelli saw through that illusion. He knew that when you walk into a room dripping with wealth, you're not inspiring respect. You're inviting calculation. People start to measure. They weigh what you've gained, what you've wasted, where you lack restraint, and what it might take to replace you. The truth is, wealth attracts admiration only from those beneath you, those who crave what you already have. But the powerful don't admire your lifestyle. They measure your moves. And when you operate from insecurity, when your aim shifts from moving strategically to looking rich, you invite predators. People who congratulate you in public while dissecting your weaknesses in private. People who weaponize your hunger for validation against you. That's why Machiavelli would say, never show the world how badly you need its applause. That weakness is a leash. The true Machiavellian never parades his riches. He projects discipline, not dollars, precision, not possessions, influence, not indulgence. He may own everything, but you'd never know. And that secrecy is his edge. Because when no one can map the size of your empire, no one can scheme to invade it, the quiet rich man is the most dangerous of all. He doesn't need your approval, and he doesn't fear your judgment, which leads to the most psychologically dominant move of all. Rule 9. Become unshakable without validation. This is where the game transforms. Most people tremble at the thought of losing money because they've built their entire identity on it. But the Machiavellian masters the one state most fear, detachment. He earns it, spends it, multiplies it, but never fuses his soul to it. Because the strongest message in any arena, business, politics, war, or love, is this: I can walk away and you cannot. That single fact changes the entire frame. It forces people to chase you, not because you're richer, but because you're free. You don't need the contract. You don't need the spotlight. You don't need to prove you belong. Because even if everything collapsed, you'd rebuild it. Not with luck, not with pleading, but with the same architecture that made you dangerous to begin with. Self-control, awareness, leverage, patience. This is the machinery of wealth, not magic, not chance, not spirituality. A system. And those who master it are those who strip emotion from it and wield it like a strategist. Surgical, silent, detached, immovable, beyond manipulation. That is when the world shifts. Not when you hit some arbitrary number, but when you become the one who decides who else climbs. At that level, money stops being the finish line. It becomes what it was always meant to be, an extension of your will. Not your master, not your identity, but a mirror. A reflection not of what you hold, but of who you've become. To master money in the Machiavellian sense, you must abandon the illusion that it is an achievement. Because money is not an end, it is a weapon. And like any weapon, its power lies not in possession, but in precision. That brings us to the 10th law of true financial power. Rule 10. He who controls the flow, controls the frame. Machiavelli never trusted appearances. He knew real power doesn't rest with the man who hoards the gold. It rests with the one who decides where it moves. In today's world, that truth has not changed. You can be rich and powerless. You can be wealthy and replaceable. But if you control the circulation of value, you bend the gravity of attention, not through admiration, not through affection, but through necessity. This is the art of positioning. You don't aspire to be the wealthiest in the room. You aspire to be the one who signs the checks, allocates the budget, controls the spotlight. Machiavelli understood the deeper law. If you are the source, people will forgive you, flatter you, obey you, even fear you. Because when their livelihood is tethered to your hand, no threats are required. Your silence becomes a command. Your pause becomes pressure. Your absence becomes punishment. This is why kings never just amassed gold. They engineered dependence. Not because they craved servants, but because they understood this absolute. People don't follow wealth, they follow its fountain. And that fountain must remain scarce, elusive, and unpredictable. You never hand everyone access.